Absolutely. So we know that the college application process can be really stressful. So really our hope and goal for tonight, as Rosa said, is to relieve some of that stress and provide some helpful information for you. And so as our home state students, we have many support systems and resources available for students from Washington. And we're going to share some of that information with you as you're navigating throughout this college process. So if we go to the next slide, starting with some at-a-glance information about Gonzaga. If you don't know much about us, we are a private Catholic Jesuit liberal arts university in Spokane, Washington. We have roughly 5,000 undergraduate students and over 80 academic programs in our College of Arts and Sciences, our School of Business Administration, School of Education, School of Engineering and Applied Science, School of Health Sciences, and our School of Leadership Studies. Our average class size is 22 with a student to faculty ratio of 12:1, and we are a really social and involved community with lots of support for our students and ways for them to be involved. So that's just a little bit about Gonzaga, and as Rosa said, we're kind of going to go through what our application review process is. So we read applications holistically. We look at 5 main factors for most of you, 6 if you submit a test score, and we'll talk about more about what test optional means in a little bit. But the first of the 5 factors is grades and grade trends. When we look at a student's GPA, we consider their grade trends. So are they going up? Are they going down? Are they remaining consistent? And circumstances that may have led to that trend, including challenges throughout maybe catching up from COVID or things getting in life. We know that there are many things that can impact a student's performance in the classroom. The middle 50% of students enrolled at Gonzaga were between a 3.47 and a 3.91 GPA, unweighted GPA. So that means that 25% of students had GPAs below that 3.47 and 25% of them had above a 3.91 on an unweighted scale. We use an unweighted GPA so that all students are on that same 4.0 scale, while at the same time looking at curriculum separately and giving it considerable weight as well. All students applying to Gonzaga should have a standard college prep curriculum. And by college prep, we mean that students should have 4 years of English, 3 to 4 years of math, 3 years of a social science, 2 to 3 years of the same language, and 3 to 4 years of a science. We know that more challenging classes can also help students be better prepared for college. So we do encourage you to take challenging courses that are available to you, but still allow for having balance in your life. In addition to preparing students better for college and therefore factoring into the application and merit scholarship a student may receive, many times students can bring in credits if they meet certain test requirements or the college classes they've taken are equivalent to ones offered at Gonzaga. We'll add a link to the chat showing our AP, IB, Cambridge, and Running Start or college and the high school policies and equivalencies. Please note that if you do have college credit from college courses you took while in high school or AP, IB, Cambridge tests you took, you are still considered a first-year student with credit and not a transfer student. You may have enough to have junior standing in college, but you'll need to follow all of the deadlines for first-year students, and you are eligible for our first-year scholarships, not the transfer ones. It's really the best of both worlds. Another option is to do an interview with the counselor, and as you can see, we do highly recommend them for students with a 3.2 GPA or lower, or anyone who feels that a talk with an admission counselor may help explain their academic history or personal needs better. We're also happy to meet with students no matter what their GPA and academics show, as the more we know about you, the better we can connect you with special opportunities at Gonzaga, such as application scholarships that might be a good fit for you. We do offer interviews via phone, video chat, and in person if you're able to visit us, which we'd love to see you on campus. You can sign them up for them on our Visit Gonzaga pages, as well as our virtual Gonzaga page, which again, we'll put in the chat. You're also welcome to contact your admission counselor to learn more and answer those questions. Later on in the presentation, we will add a Find Your Counselor webpage to the chat, and you'll be able to see all of our Washington counselors there. So with the exception of homeschooled students, Gonzaga is test optional for admission for all majors, including nursing, and all scholarships and special programs, such as the Honors Program and our Unity Scholars Program, which again, we'll talk about a little bit later. In other words, students applying without a test have the same access to everything that students applying with a test have. When a student applies without a test score, we place more emphasis on the evaluation of grades and curriculum and the writing throughout the application. If you do have a test score ready and you're wondering whether or not to submit it, you can see our middle 50 percentages for test scores for the incoming class. So that's a 1200 to a 1400 for the SAT and a 28 to a 32 for the ACT. You are welcome to discuss your specific situation with your admission counselor, but in general, if you already have a strong curriculum and GPA, you would have to have a very high test score, more at the top end of our middle 50s, to have a test score that makes a difference in your application. Homeschooled students who have more than 30 semester or 45 quarter credits of transferable credit from a college or community college at the time of application do not need to submit a test score, though those who have less college credit are required to do so. For all of our applicants, on the Gonzaga questions page of the Common App, you'll see that you'll be asked to mark whether or not you want to have an SAT or ACT test count as part of your application. If you mark no, then we will not use your score, even if you've sent it to us previously. If you mark yes, we will use your score, and we'll keep trying to contact you to get your score if it's missing from your application at the time that you apply. If you've taken the same test more than once, we will super score your total score by taking the best score from each subsection, such as the math and evidence-based reading and writing on the SAT, and adding them together. So if you are using your scores, it's always helpful to provide us with all of them so that we can use the highest ones from each subsection. Please be in communication with your admission counselor if you change your mind on using your score or not. And if we haven't finished our evaluation process, we can make that change for you. We will expect December 1 to be the date after which you cannot change your mind on whether or not to use a test score for our early action deadline and applicants, and it'll be February 15 for the regular decision applicants. As a part of our holistic review, we do also consider the commitments that you have outside of school activities. So we are looking more for depth in an area rather than you've done everything offered. Gonzaga is a really community-oriented place, and our students get very involved on campus and in our community. So we seek students who enjoy being involved, starting new clubs, serving as leaders in some capacity, really engaging in your community. Please note that working, volunteering, and family responsibilities are important to list as they show responsibility, dependability, and engagement in your community. We also don't value one type of activity over another, such as sports over music or music over DECA. We are interested in all of the talents, passions, and abilities you bring to our college community. The Common App does also require an essay, and there's a short answer question on our Gonzaga questions page, also known as the supplement, and another one that will appear if you mark yourself as a nursing applicant. There's also a section on the Common App that allows you to address any hardships or issues that you've had as a result of COVID, natural disasters, and other things, as well as a section where you can address dips in your grades or any other academic or personal challenges that you've faced. We do encourage you to use these sections if they apply to you, so you can give us more context to your personal situation, environment, and academic history. For the essay, the Common App has you pick one from 7 different prompts, and the last one is make up your own question. So you really have limitless options, and we encourage you to pick the one or the prompt that speaks to you and is one that you can write about well. We also encourage you to make your topic narrow rather than broad. For example, writing about a passion for swimming is very broad, but if you pick your topic something like what I learned from taking swim lessons for 10 years, that's kind of a more narrower topic that you can cover in this place aloud, that also allows some reflection. We want to see that you can write well, but we also want to learn more about you from your essay. You're welcome to be creative with this. We've had students who maybe wanted to be a journalist and wrote their essay as if interviewing themselves 5 years into their career. The best essays really let us experience what you experience as we read them. They show us an experience, they don't tell it. An example of telling a student is a student that may be writing about debate, and they can say something like, I've been on the debate team for all of my high school years and I've won many tournaments. It's an intense and sometimes scary activity, but I enjoy it. So that's really telling the story. What showing it might look like would be something like, I scribbled furiously as my opponent finished her argument, making sure I could counter each point. And then as it was my turn to speak, I pushed my anxieties away and the usual rush of energy came over me. And I remembered I live for debate moments like this one. Strong essays usually use vivid imagery and sometimes dialogue. They reflect on what experiences mean to them and tie the end of the essay back to the beginning, referring again to something that they opened the essay with. And it just lets us know that the essay and the story has come to a conclusion. Strong essays are also well proofed for errors, and I'm sure it goes without saying, but they use appropriate capitalization, punctuation, grammar, even in the short answer questions. I can't tell you the number of times we've seen little i's or parents' names in all lowercase. And while we're not going to throw away a student's application, it doesn't leave the impression you want it to leave, and overall, the professionalism on the application is really important. Again, as I said, we are a community that really cares about one another. So that final piece that we look at is your character, which is shown through a letter of recommendation from an academic teacher, so someone you've had in a class, and the secondary school report, which is filled out by your high school counselor or school office. The letter from your high school counselor is not required, though if your counselor sends one, we will add it to your file and review it. If you are interested in majoring in nursing, that is a direct admission program. So for intended nursing majors, you need to list nursing as your primary academic interest on the Common App. For nursing applicants, we have a fairly small program, and this is our most competitive major. The first thing we look for is 4 years of math and science in your high school curriculum. We prefer biology, chemistry, and other life science labs and courses such as anatomy and physiology, but other sciences are also fine. It's helpful to have some experience shadowing or volunteering in healthcare settings, but we also recognize that that's not always possible for folks. Students may only enter our nursing program as a first-year student, and since this is a cohort model program with students taking their classes and clinicals together, it's not possible to transfer into the program. One really important thing to note is that nursing applicants must apply to GU by the November 15 deadline. So that's using our early action deadline. Any applications submitted after November 15 will only be applying for a spot on our nursing waitlist.
Wonderful. Thank you, Alexa. So now getting into the Washington student-specific information. This slide and the following slide will be applicable to Washington students only, starting with our scholarship program, Unity Scholars. Unity Scholars is Gonzaga's Leadership, Equity, Access, and Diversity program. The Unity Scholars program offers a really comprehensive package of benefits designed to support our Washington students throughout their entire college experience. The program benefits include grant and scholarship aid for 4 years, covering tuition, academic fees, housing, and meal charges, or a meal plan. Enrollment in our Bridge Pre-Orientation Social Justice and Leadership Institute, peer, staff, and faculty mentorship throughout the time at Gonzaga, so throughout the 4 years, participation in a 4-year leadership cohort supported by our Unity Multicultural Education Center, also known as UMEC, and other campus partners. It's just a broad customization support for securing paid internships, jobs, and overall opportunities for funding for study abroad, as well as just tailored post-graduation support with advising and preparation. To be eligible for the Unity Scholars Program, a student must be a Washington State resident and apply to Gonzaga University as a first-year applicant, meeting all admission requirements. Priority consideration is given to those who apply to Gonzaga by early action deadline of November 15, and how my colleague Alexa mentioned, all nursing applicants must submit an application by that November 15, as it is our nursing application deadline. The final deadline to apply to Gonzaga will be February 1, our regular decision deadline. In addition, you will need to submit the Unity Scholars application, so it does require a separate application beyond the Gonzaga application, and that will be due January 5th. Which just went live today, so you can start your application today. You can find the application by going to gonzaga.edu/Unity Scholars or by scanning the QR code on your screen. With that said, students will also need to submit a FAFSA or WASFA Undocumented Washington residents are eligible to apply for Unity Scholars and must submit that WASFA when it becomes available. Priority is given again to those students whose family income is below 70% of Washington's median income. We do have a holistic review process in place to review our Unity Scholar applicants, where many factors are taken into consideration. This includes academic performance, demonstrated resilience in the face of barriers or obstacles to pursuing an education, genuine commitment to or demonstrated record of social justice activism, demonstrated involvement in cultural awareness groups, clubs, or activities, and engagement in leadership within their school, community, and/or family. The timeline for the Unity Scholars application goes as followed. Students must apply by that November 15 early action or by a regular decision deadline of February 1. Once again, we have that prioritization for those students that are applying by that early action, but we will still review students who apply by the regular decision. You must also submit that separate Unity Scholars application by January 5, 2025. And finally, finalists will be selected in mid-February, followed by virtual interviews, where we will get to know a little bit more about you. Recipients will be notified by early March. Again, this program just welcomed its first cohort this fall, which was really exciting to see. It has been incredible to see the impact it's made, and beyond the financials, it is huge. It's just allowed students to not only grow academically, personally, professionally, while also being supported by the Gonzaga community. Wonderful. Another program at Gonzaga to support our Washington students is our Gonzaga Access Pledge. This is Gonzaga's full tuition commitment to bridge the gap for college funding. The Gonzaga Access Pledge provides grant and scholarship aid to cover the cost of tuition for 4 years for first-year students throughout Washington who qualify for the federal Pell Grant and have a student aid index, or the now known SAI, lower than $25,000. To be eligible for the Gonzaga Access Pledge, students need to be, again, Washington residents and be admitted to Gonzaga as a first-year student, submit a FAFSA or WASFA, and all of our undocumented students are eligible as long as they submit that WASFA and are eligible for that federal Pell Grant with an SAI, again, lower than $25,000. And then with that, our Gonzaga Access Pledge will be notified when they receive their financial aid package. And that GAP, or that Gonzaga Access Pledge, is not a separate application, unlike the Unity Scholars. Awesome, so wonderful. Time to mark your calendars, talking about application and deadlines. You can find the Gonzaga application for first-year students through the Common App at commonapp.org or directly on our website at gonzaga.edu/apply. Again, our early action and our nursing application deadline is November 15, and our regular decision deadline will be February 1. As mentioned earlier, the Unity Scholars Program does require that separate application. In addition to that Gonzaga application, the Unity Scholars application, again, is now live and can be found at gonzaga.edu/Unity Scholars with a deadline of January 5, 2025. Priority consideration is given to those who apply to GU by early action deadline of November 15. However, students will still be reviewed if they apply by that regular decision. Beautiful. Next slide. Please connect with us. Please know you're not alone through this process. We have a wide variety of virtual programming, such as this webinar. We have a couple more coming up, as well as other options like a virtual tour and those virtual interviews, as well as in-person events to help you learn a little bit more about Gonzaga and the admission process. You can find all of our visit options at gonzaga.edu/visit, which Will has put in the chat. Thank you, Will. And you will also, so you can also learn a little bit more through our social media. We have Instagram, Twitter, and our TikTok, just a fun way to get to know what being a ZAG is all about. With that said, with the being not alone, um, we hope that this information has clarified our application process as well as provided some insight into the financial aid programs available specifically to our Washington students. Um, we like to share that this is our team of Washington contacts. Like I mentioned, I primarily work with North Central Washington students and students in West King County in Washington State, but we have other colleagues supporting our students throughout the entire state. If you want to specifically find out who your admission counselor is, you can find that out by following the link gonzaga.edu my counselor or by going through the QR code. We are more than happy to answer your questions and support you. But we will now move on to a Q&A session. So if you have any questions, if you want to stick around, please put your questions in the Q&A function and we will address those now.
Thank you, Rosa. So the first question I think we should talk about is the difference between submitting the FAFSA and the WASFA. Someone asked, is it okay to apply with both? And the answer is no. You only want to apply using one. So if you are eligible for federal funding, then you will submit the FAFSA. The WASFA is strictly for students who reside in the state of Washington who are not eligible to submit the FAFSA. Those are typically our undocumented students. If you have any questions on whether or not you should submit the FAFSA or the WASFA, please always feel free to contact your admission counselor directly, as well as our financial aid office. We work with confidentiality always and are happy to help guide you through which financial aid application is going to be best for you. If you reside outside of Washington State and are undocumented or cannot submit the FAFSA, we do have a needs analysis form on our website through our financial aid office. And it looks like that's about it for now. However, we do have some time, so please feel free to put more questions in the Q&A. We will continue to stay on for the next couple of minutes. If you have any questions, again, please feel free to put those on. If not, please also feel free to contact your admission counselor for any additional questions. Rosa, this is a question we got. Are scholarships first come, first serve?
Great question. So for the Unity Scholars and GAP, Unity Scholars will be application based, and we are prioritizing that consideration for those that apply early action. And then the GAP will be automatically considered through filing that FAFSA or WASFA. For additional scholarships, we also have merit scholarships where students will automatically be considered for through their common application, so just by applying to Gonzaga. And those merit scholarships will be just based on merit, academic achievement, as well as involvement and other factors. And you will be notified about those when you hear about our decision in terms of admission.
Awesome, thank you. So yes, as Rosa said, the Unity Scholars application is application based. However, it is not necessarily first come, first serve. So it does not necessarily matter when you submit your Unity Scholars application, but what that application process looks like is there is additional writing that is involved. So we will ask for a more detailed explanation of your experience and involvement in leadership and service and being in your community. And then there is an additional essay that we ask students to write for the Unity Scholars application. From there, we will have a list of semifinalists that will be offered a virtual interview to meet with members of our admission team, as well as members of the Unity Multicultural Education Center. And then our final recipients will be determined in combination of the strength of the written application and the virtual interviews that we conduct for the Unity Scholars application. So hopefully that helps clear that up. Is there a deadline to submitting the FAFSA? No. So right now, the FAFSA, the Department of Education is sharing that the FAFSA will hopefully be available in December. We really want students to submit that sooner rather than later. That just allows us and our financial aid team to work with you and have more time to get you your full financial aid offer before the May 1 confirmation deadline. So the sooner you submit it, the sooner you can get a full picture on your financial aid offer to Gonzaga. Let's see. How many students receive the Unity Scholarship per year? The Unity Scholars Program is typically a cohort of about 20 students each year. And are there merit scholarships while attending a Catholic high school? It's a great question. Yes, we do have a Catholic high school alumni scholarship that will be automatically added to your a financial aid offer if you are eligible. So that's nothing that you have to apply for. It's information that we get directly from your common application. Great question. Okay. So it looks like there may sometimes be some confusion on who your admission counselor is. So just know that in our office, sometimes counselors do change some territories around. So if you met with an admission counselor last year that is no longer assigned to your area or your region or your high school, that is a-okay. We do share all of our notes and email exchanges and things like that with each other. And we are always there to help kind of support any student, whether or not you're in our assigned territory or not. So always feel free to reach out to our office, and any of our counselors are well equipped to help support you. Awesome. How do you place students in what dorms? Yeah, great question. So students are required to live on campus for their first 2 years at Gonzaga. The way that housing works is we do have living learning communities that require a separate application. So for example, that could be our leadership learns to lead community, outdoor pursuits for students that are interested in the outdoors. We have one people for and with others, which really focuses on service. So just know that if you're interested in the LLCs, those do have an additional application in addition to the housing application, and that's something that you will have to deal with later on in the spring once admission decisions are released. So it's nothing you have to figure out right now. And once those are set, there will be a whole housing application process where students can go in and select their residence hall, again, unless they're in those LLCs, as well as their room. We do host a housing webinar later in the spring for accepted students, so you'll just want to keep an eye out for that again later on in the spring. Looks like if a student applies to the nursing program by November 15, when are decisions shared? That's a great question. So all students that apply by the early action deadline can expect their admission decisions in late December. And then students who applied by our February 1 regular decision deadline can expect their admission decision in early March. What are Unity Scholars? That's a great question. Rosa, do you want to talk about maybe some of the programming that our Unity Scholars, take part in once they're on campus?
For sure. So one of the programs that I mentioned earlier was students will be required to participate in our Bridge pre-orientation, which is our Social Justice and Leadership Institute. This is just building foundation for our students to be well equipped to navigate the college experience, just get connected with staff, with current students, build your toolkit to be able to succeed in college. Primarily focuses on supporting students that come from marginalized backgrounds, especially like, for example, myself was first gen. And the program just supports our students in that way, as well as peer and staff and faculty mentorship throughout the 4 years. So you're guided, you have someone to go to all your 4 years asking questions around like, what classes should I take? Or if there's an internship or leadership opportunity, how do I go about that? And again, that 4-year leadership cohort is supported through a Unity Multicultural Education Center. There's also going to be other supports like customized support for paid internship jobs or research opportunities, as well as maybe funding for study abroad, and just overall tailored support for our students to be able to succeed throughout their 4 years.
Awesome. Thank you, Rosa. Yeah, Unity Scholars are really just students that are leaders in their community and leaders that we want to have in Gonzaga with a really an emphasis of social justice activism, involvement in cultural awareness. And so if that fits who you are and your experiences and who you want to be in college and beyond, I definitely encourage you to check that out and apply. Moving to the next question, do students have to pay to apply? And if so, do we pay on the Common App? That's a great question. Yes, so Gonzaga does have an application fee of $60. However, we never want finances to be a barrier for students applying. So there are many ways to obtain fee waivers. So there are ways to apply for a fee waiver directly on the Common App, and that is need and income based. And so typically students that maybe receive free or reduced lunch or things like that are able to receive that Common App fee waiver. And then Gonzaga alumni are also able to waive the application fee for 2 students each year. If you were unsure about how to go about getting a fee waiver and that is a barrier to you applying to Gonzaga, please reach out to your admission counselor, and we are happy to walk you through and provide that information for you. Again, we never want that to be a barrier for students applying to GU. Speaking more about the honors program, that is a great question. Yeah, so our honors program also has a separate application of January 5th. I'm actually going to encourage you to check out our honors webinar, which is happening later in the month of November. And that will include information about the application to the honors program, as well as to hear from faculty and current students within the cohort. So we really want to focus this opportunity on applying to Gonzaga generally, as well as the opportunities specifically for Washington students in regards to GAP and Unity Scholars. But we of course love our honors program and are very proud of all of our students and what they're able to accomplish. So I will ask one of my colleagues just to put a link in the chat about the honors program and how to register for that honors webinar. Thank you, Rosa. Awesome.
Yeah, just added that on the chat. So similar to how you register for this webinar, it's happening on November 19th, and you just hear a lot more information from our colleague that runs the honors program there. Cool.
Great. Okay.
Wonderful.
I think we got all of the questions. So again, please feel free to reach out anytime to your admission counselor. And I'll hand it to Rosa. Oh, wait, looks like we've got some more. How do you get an internship in the healthcare industry as an undergraduate student? Rosa, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, so we have our program called H3P, which is our H3P health professional path. Wait, was it? Is
Health
it
Professions Pathways Program.
Yeah,
It's a mouthful.
We use a lot of acronyms, as you can tell, and we forget what they mean. But that's an opportunity for students that want to do that kind of like pre-med, pre-PT, all of those healthcare opportunities. You get paired up with an advisor who will support you through your 4 years, making sure that you're taking the right classes, the right internships, finding internships for you, reviewing your resumes, your cover letters, and supporting you all the way through to getting into the career or the post-graduation school or program that you may be interested to pursue that career in healthcare. As well as our career preparation office is another great resource for students to go in there and see what opportunities are available. But again, that H3P program is hosted in the professional career I'm losing my thought here. Career professional development office. So they're great support for our students in finding those internships opportunities, as well as supporting them in having all of the right materials like resumes, cover letters, and do mock interviews as well. Good question.
Thank you. Still getting some questions about the honors program. Again, we're going to direct you to the honors web pages that Will and Rosa have put in the chat, as well as registering for that honors webinar, because again, it's going to go into more detail about that program. So please feel free to register for that webinar. You can also directly reach out to our honors coordinator, Aaron Danowski, and you can find his contact information on the Find Your Counselor webpage. How many freshmen are admitted in the fall? That's a great question. So that depends on every year. We of course pride ourselves on being a tight-knit community as well as our small class sizes. So it's hard to give you like a rough number. I will say on average, our incoming first year class each year is around 12 to 1,300 students per year. And our acceptance rate is typically between 60 and 70%, which is just about the national average, with the exception of our nursing program. Again, the nursing program as a direct admission program is our most competitive. And so that acceptance rate is a lot smaller, or not a lot smaller. It's between 30 to 35%.
Wonderful. Any last questions? Beautiful. Oh, there's one more. Is there academic support office for accommodations? Yes. Oh, go for it, Alexa.
Yep, I was just talking about, sure, I can definitely speak to that. Yeah, so through Disability Access, which lives within our Center for Student Academic Success, that is where students will be able to work with professional staff on campus to help with any of those accommodations. So whether you have a current IEP in high school or anything like that, that's where you will be able to work with us, and they will help coordinate any academic accommodations that you may need, any housing accommodations, physical accommodations that you may need. So there is a lot of support. They work very closely with our students. You get a lot of personal attention. I'll ask one of our colleagues to put a link to the Disability Access webpage in the chat. But basically, you would submit a form over the summer before you start at Gonzaga. So it would be this coming summer. And then they will work with you one-on-one to make sure any needs are met.
Great question. Awesome. Any last questions? Going once? Awesome. Well, it's been a pleasure to be with you all this evening. We appreciate your time. We hope that this has eased some stress. Again, we have a number of in-person and virtual information sessions, like if you want to learn a little bit more about the honors program or connect with your admission counselor, please feel free to reach out. Again, thank you so much for attending and for your interest in being a ZAG. We hope that, again, this has eased some stress for you. But go ZAGs, and good luck with the admission process. Thank you, everyone.